You're listening to The Dan Nicholl Show.
My guest on the Dan Nicholl Show this week ties into one of my New Year's resolutions, of which there are many, very few of which I will come close to keeping. I think the develop a six-pack and run the 100 metres in under 10 seconds are probably out the window. I am planning this year to watch South Africa win a Cricket World Cup of sorts. Any team, any age group, I don't care, just somehow. I would love to finally get the Maldives on the travel list. And then the big one. And I've been trying this for probably 2 decades, work out which Ndungane is which when they are both in the same room. Normally it is Odwa or Akona, how are you? But I can say with certain authority, Odwa Ndungane. Lovely to have you on the show. Welcome.
Say it with a bit of confidence, because you're in Durban, of course. Yeah, no.
Unless, of course, you actually are Akona, and this is a massive, massive ruse that the two of you have done, because you have done this before to people, including, if memory serves, to some previous girlfriends.
Well, if my wife is watching, then definitely not to that. And it's possible that it could be him as well. You never know.
Is it an issue? Do people get you horribly mixed up, or do most people kind of know which one they're talking to?
Family are able to tell us apart. My wife, fortunately, she can.
That's kind of important.
It is very important. His wife, I think, she can also tell the difference. But like yourself, you get confused.
I've got no idea.
Yeah, so many people do get confused. And funny enough, whenever I visit him in Joburg or Pretoria, people just assume that it's him without even asking. And I'm not going to be the one who says, no, it's not. I'll just continue with the conversation and obviously make sure you keep it short.
Now, you see, if I was you in that case, and that's because I'm a horrible person, I would go into every single bar and open a tab and just run up thousands. And no, I'll be back tomorrow. And then when your brother does rock up a week later and discovers he's got 20 angry people he doesn't owe money to.
It's possible you could be watching and you're giving him ideas now. So
he'll come down to Durban to do the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Twins are always such a fascinating space, because there have been myriad studies over the years of how you can be living in different cities and you wake up and you give each other a video call and you're wearing the same outfit, or you've decided to order the same thing for lunch on the same day. Yeah. Do you and Akona have something along those lines?
We definitely do, in more ways than one. And, I think back many times when something has happened to him. And I think when he was still playing, when he broke his leg the second time, you get one of those days where you just wake up, your stomach is turning and you're just not feeling good. And it was one of those days. And I remember I woke up that morning, but I was just not feeling myself. And my energy wasn't good. And then later in the day, his wife called me and said, your brother broke his leg again. And, now you can tie that up, without even me knowing that he was going to break his leg. But there was just something along those lines. And the funny one was, I'll actually show you a picture afterwards, when we went to the July, we never spoke about what we're going to be wearing, and we actually matched to the T. But so I wore a navy jacket, powder blue shirt, and white pants, and he wore it other way around, white pants, shirt, but the coloring was the same, exactly the same.
Yeah. That's freaky.
Without even saying what you're going to wear, because he's a bit more outgoing, Joburg based, he likes the fashion side of it. So I was quite proud of myself that day, because I actually got to keep up with him at something when it regards to fashion.
It speaks to an incredibly close relationship that you have. You obviously live in different cities, but so much of what you've done has followed on, and just the rugby career. You're very similar people in so many ways.
Similar, yeah, I'm not so sure.
Well, no, what would the big differences be then?
Well, you spoke first about about our relationship, how close we are. I think we've actually gotten closer the older we've got, and the more we understand the importance of brotherhood. I think the challenge when we were young, we were very competitive. In fact, we hated the fact that our folks made us wear the same thing. And I think either more from his point of view, he didn't possibly like what we had to wear the whole time. And I think as we grew up, that competitiveness was got a bit out of hand. But the older we got, and when we were playing, we actually became fans of each other. We supported each other along the way, and the difference is between the two of us. I think as much as we are both pretty reserved, but he's very lazy.
He's going to love this.
Extremely lazy, and I always tell him that. And you know, I remember there was a time when there was something we had to do, and he had his part that he had to do. He never did it. He just left it up to me. And then when I asked him, "Have you done the section that you have to do?" He says, "No, man, I thought you were gonna do it." And I remember then I had to tell myself, just stay calm. I picked up the phone, I called my mother, and I said, "Your son is frustrating." And she said to me, "You know what? It's always been like that. Since you guys were young, he's always relied a lot on you because that's how he is." But in terms of us getting close together, we're quite close now at the moment.
Are you the older twin?
Funny enough, I'm not.
You're not?
He's the older one by 6 minutes. And tell you a funny story. So it also talks to his laziness. And because I came out second, and my mother said when I came out, I was out of breath because I was busy pushing him. And he was just taking his time. And by the time I came out, I needed to be in the incubator, I get some help. And but, you know, it's all fun and games.
You are competitive to a degree that got you to where you were as a rugby star and a great rugby champion. Do you remember the first time that the two of you had to line up against each other as rugby players and how competitive that was?
You're taking me back now. I don't really remember the first game, but it was the very first time was when I was playing for Border and he was playing for the Elephants, EP.
The Mighty Elephants.
The Mighty Elephants, as they were called at the time, which they've since moved on to Kings. But that was the very first time we played against each other. And I think it was both exciting and quite special as well because we've played together right through school, age groups, we've played together. And now it was the first time even though we were both on the right wing and we were not going to really face each other, but the teams that we were playing for were playing against each other. So that was quite a special one. And then we've obviously gone on to play for bigger teams, the Sharks and the Bulls. And at a bigger stage, that was obviously quite special. Just, I think, not only for us too, but for our family at large as well. You know, coming to games to support, it was always division. Mostly supported the Sharks at the time because of just, I think, coming from the Eastern Cape, that's the team that you relate to. You know, back in those days, I think they're the coastal teams, and Sharks used to play games in the Eastern Cape as well. So I think that's how my family supported the Sharks. But the days we played against each other was quite special.
It must have been quite tough. I'm imagining your mum hoping that you both score hat-tricks in a 35-all draw and she doesn't have to have one of her sons disappointed.
Yeah.
How difficult was it for you guys with each other? Like, if you played against each other, I mean, at a certain age, you know, kids will gloat over each other. So on one hand, you just won, but on the other hand, you can see, here's my brother who's disappointed because he's lost.
Well, you know, funny enough, he's beaten me a lot of times, and I've also won, but he's had more of the silverware. So whenever I try to even bring up that conversation, he just tells me, "I've got 3 Super Rugby trophies. What do you have?" That ends conversation right there. So I try and shy away from that, but you know, it was always very competitive. Whenever we win, especially up at Loftus, because it's never easy to go there and win at the time and the teams that they had back then. So those were very special times, and I made sure that I enjoyed my time in the sun and rub it in as much as I could.
And still do, I'm sure. In fact, I've seen this happen on a number of occasions. But you do have these incredible memories to share and this story of rugby success. how much were you able to help each other, especially in those early days when rugby was certainly not as transformed as it is today, where you're coming from the Eastern Cape into new areas and new places, into new teams, finding your feet in often established squads? Were there often the phone call to your brother, to each other, just to try and help you each other through some challenging times?
Yeah, and you know, I think that's when we got even closer. Because, like you mentioned, you know, coming from the Eastern Cape, where you are mostly in familiar environments, now you get the opportunity to obviously go the step up, and at times you are far away from family at a young age, 21, 22, and you speak to the person that you feel is in the same position, can understand some of the challenges or some of the fears that you have. So, and I think that's what helped us be comfortable in the teams that we were in, because like you rightfully say, then at that time there was the numbers were quite small, and you didn't have people that looked like you, that you felt, you know, you can bond and be more comfortable. So you needed someone like him, and him also calling me. We used to chat quite a bit, and you know, just keep each other focused at what we wanted to achieve, and understand that, you know, we have an amazing opportunity ahead of us, and we just have to keep pushing each other to be better and to do well. And you know what, if you do well, then you've done your part. And the most important thing we always reminded each other as well is control what you can. And then if you do your part, there's nothing else you should worry about. You can't concern yourself with things that you can't change, but just make sure when it's time to turn up, you have to turn up no matter what. And I think that was quite important to get us through. And you know, we were fortunate to have played for as long as we did, and that was a big part of that longevity, definitely.
If we look at the careers, we'll look at the silverware automatically, the big wins. But for the players
You're
themselves...
starting again.
Well, look, actually, Akona sent me a list of questions I have to ask you. It's sometimes I find with the players things that those of us who watch on as fans might not always think of or appreciate, understand. So when you look back on your career, I look back and think this was an incredible rugby career, but maybe for different reasons that you do. What are you proudest of when you look back at your journey with rugby and your contribution to rugby?
Well, I think over the years I played, there's a lot of lessons that I learned along the way. And I love your question because it happened to me quite earlier on in my career at the Sharks, where you come into this environment and you possibly, to some extent, take it for granted. The work ethic you take for granted. And maybe perhaps you don't understand it because where you come from, it was maybe not as competitive, which kind of like makes you to be in a comfort zone in a way. And I remember my first season at the Sharks where things didn't go according to plan at all. Because anyone that comes in, you have these massive goals, targets that you want to achieve. And when it actually just flips upside down, you don't even get close to reaching your targets. Your performance is not at the level that you want it to be, that you think it should be. And obviously you start to question yourself if you belong now in this space that you are in now. So I had to get over that. And I think what most I'm proud of was being a twin, you get compared a lot to your brother. And at that time, the Bulls were doing extremely well. And my brother was playing extremely well. So I remember I used to even go to functions here in Durban, and then people would make fun that perhaps the Sharks bought the wrong twin. You know, as much as it's funny when you think about it, and people were making fun at the time, if those comments are coming to you when you're at your lowest moment, it's difficult. I think it just makes the situation even bigger, where you start to doubt yourself even more. And there was a lot that happened that year, and I had to look within. And there's a saying that people always speak about, where they talk about belief, where they say no matter what, the belief has to come from within. Because whatever you do, or whatever sport you play at, whatever level you are playing, you won't always be on top of your game, and you'll face many challenges. And if you don't really deep down believe in what you can do and your capabilities, you will fall away, and you might actually not go as far as you want to. And that was the one thing I look back now and I'm quite proud of, because had I not realized I'm in a very difficult sport, and my belief is that there's nothing that beats hard work, and I had to go back to basics and make sure that I just start working hard, change small things that make a big difference at the end. And one of those which now come to mind was when we had the off season, and then we had about 2 weeks break. Everyone said cheers, they went on their way, and then I stayed behind because I wanted it that badly, and I knew that I can't afford to take 2 weeks off, where I took a few days off just for the body to recover and refresh my mind. So that was one small thing amongst many other small things that I had to change to make sure that it influences the bigger performance. And amongst, like you said, the big games that we played and we won, and the performances, that for me is the one thing that sticks out, because I think had I not handled it the way I did, we don't know how it would have panned out. But because I had to almost start afresh, restart, and then kick and work my way up again, so to speak. And I think that also made me appreciate every single day. When I got back into it now, and then my confidence was there and my performance was there, I could never take it for granted and leave now and not work as hard. So it made me every single time, I gotta keep working that, keeping those high standards, because I realized it can change that quickly. So that's one thing that definitely I look back and I'm quite proud of.
So many of the conversations I have with really successful athletes, and you've just emphasized this very point, the guys who've done really well have had a bottom, they've had a dark space, they've had a am I really supposed to be here moment, and in appreciating the tough times has made them realize that the good times are worth working for,
Yes.
and so much more valuable when you get there.
Yes, no, without a doubt. And also, I mean, if you've got the talent, you'll obviously get back to the top. And it's so competitive, and you need that edge to make sure that you can sustain it. For me, it was one thing, and that was work ethic. And I often have conversations with some of my friends, because that's what I speak about, and that's what I believe in, that, you know what, you gotta work hard. And some of the questions, like some guys would say to me, who in your time was one of the hardest working players? And I say, you know what, if you look at our team and you look at the guys that were really successful and have gone on to become legends of Sharks and SA rugby, those are the guys. You as much as you might not think, but John Smith was a very hard-working guy.
Well, he had to be, because he ate 7 meals a day. That's why he has to ride mountain bikes all the time now.
And he's still working now. And the likes of Bismarck, Stefan Terblanche, all of those guys, it's no surprise that they were so good for so long. It has to come from something. Talent is obviously there, but they have to support that with the work ethic, and that, for me, is one of the differences at the top.
Oh, one correction there, though. You mentioned Stefan Terblanche. He's obviously let himself go a bit
I
after
know,
his career.
he's not looking good at all.
If Google, when you finish listening to this, Google Stefan Terblanche retirement shirt off. I think he's got about 0.3% body fat. It's sickening. He's obviously got nothing else to do other than go to the gym.
And by the way, speaking of that guy, he was one of the most boring athletes ever you would ever come across in terms of, when you come to a hotel, you've obviously got the buffet, and you enjoy yourself, you indulge. Even post-match, you indulge.
Oh, don't look at me. I'd never do that.
Looking at that, I think you do quite a bit. And Stefan, on the other hand, you'd be like, no, if he's having pasta, no sauce. I mean, who has pasta with no sauce?
No.
I mean, really?
Very boring people.
It worked for him, no?
I think we've got Stefan coming up in a few months' time. I've got a great story of Stefan in Belfast. Don't tell him I told you this because it's a secret, but he played for Ulster for a while, and I knew he was there, and I was over from Belfast originally, was visiting my family, and he wanted to take me to his local butcher who made boerewors because they'd had so many South Africans. Rowan Pienaar had been over, Robbie Kempson, Robbie Brink, who I think had played 8 minutes of rugby in 2 years. There were a whole pile of guys. Johan had been over, all these great South Africans. And he took me to the butchery, and up on the wall were these newspaper cutouts. Pienaar wins game again. Kempson scrums Ulster to victory. Johan champion performance. Like a dozen different South Africans. But there was nothing about Stefan Terblanche. So we went up to the counter and we met Murphy, the butcher, and that's actually his real name. It's not just an Irish joke. And I asked him about the South African rugby players. He said, yes, they've got lots of them. A big fan. In fact, he's learnt to make boerewors. Really, I said, and I've got Stefan standing beside me. Have you ever heard of a guy called Stefan Terblanche? He looks at me and goes, no, it doesn't ring a bell. Broke poor Stefan's heart.
Man. And you speak of South Africans at Ulster. There's just something with Ulster, because I think there's a lot of, besides the weather differences, I mean, Ulster, there's nothing in Ulster. Somehow, the Afrikaans boys love Ulster.
Belfast is a great city. If you haven't been to Belfast, you should visit. It's a really, really cool place. Look, the weather is revolting.
Yes.
And you won't understand a word any of the locals say, but it is a very, very cool city.
I saw a picture the one time, I think it was from Rowan Pienaar, and he showed how high ice had come up to his car. And I thought to myself, there is not a chance.
Maybe if
I would go there.
If from Durban, if you went in the height of summer, which is usually an afternoon in late July, you might just survive. But maybe
their
keep
summer
it
is
to
not
that.
as long as our summer. Their summer must be like 2 weeks.
2 hours, and you're doing well. You had this amazing rugby career, and for so long in that rugby career, and you've alluded to it in jest already, the conversation was, who's the best Ndungane? Who's the most famous Ndungane in the family? Now, of course, you and your brother battle for who is the second most famous Ndungane in the family, because your wife has taken top spot comfortably. I think she plays more golf than most professional golfers. She's addicted to it. And people will know her because she is also one of the starlets of I always want to say the desperate, but not the desperate, the Real Housewives of Durban.
How many times has she corrected you with that?
Oh, no, but I think she now knows that I know exactly what the right one is, but that I'm taking the mickey out of her. And she does give me a dressing down before and after every time I see her.
Yeah.
But she had a lot of fun with that, and she's a wonderful entertainer. She's great fun.
She is. She's. My wife is something else. She's, you speak about competitive between the two of us. She's something else. She's a fighter. They talk about dynamite coming in small packages, and my wife is small, and she's one dynamite. And, she's what she has something I call obsessive syndrome. Once she gets onto something and she starts that, I mean, there's no stopping. She just wants to get better and better, and then she got introduced to golf, and she hated the fact that golf kicks her ass all the time. and it still does to us. And she says the challenge she's finding is that she's also a perfectionist. Now, if you are a perfectionist and you think you're going to take that into golf, you are on a hiding. Definitely on a hiding. But, she's really, really worked hard, and she works hard. And like you say, she plays way more than pros. She calls herself a pro. And she loves the golf. And the golf has really come along quite nicely. Every single tournament we go to, I'm going there to win. And then it never really works out like that. And you know what? Then I think it also speaks to. She never listens to me. Hopefully, she watches the show.
This is
and
why
then she listens
I'm afraid.
to she listens to my advice, and I think the more you want there with everything you're gonna go win, you put yourself under so much pressure. And I say this because I've actually looked at most golfers. I'm a big golf fan and I watch golf. And I remember watching the Olympics. And they did an interview of, let's say, call it 7 top golfers. And they asked each one what was their goal for that 4 days that they were playing golf at Golfland National. I mean, they had the likes of Rory, Tommy Fleetwood, Peter Lowry. I think Christian was there as well. And most of them, if not all of them, said, I want to come home with a medal for my country, which is obviously what you think. But the one guy that actually came away with a gold medal said that I want to come here and have fun and enjoy myself. And that was Scotty Scheffler. And I think coming from a player that's number 1 in the world, especially for us amateurs, where we know, or he knows, that golf is a very difficult sport, one where you're playing for 4 hours. One thing you can never concentrate for the whole 4 hours, otherwise it becomes too, you mentally you can't, it's impossible. And there's a lot of mistakes. In other sports where there's team sports where you make a mistake, you cover me up. In golf, if I put one in the water, then I'm penalized. Then I have to recover. And if I'm there to win, I count each and every shot. Then I'm like, man, now I need to chase. And that is the wrong way to go about it. But if, like he says, before each and every tournament, he knows that he's worked hard enough, by the time he steps onto the first tee, all his work is done and he trusts the process. And now, if you put on top of that, going there to have fun, I think it just takes the pressure off. You're not attached to whatever result of every shot, but you are present on the entire round. And I think, that speaks volume, and that's why he ended up winning the gold medal, and that's why he's number 1 in the world.
It's a wonderful philosophy. You've got zero chance of convincing your wife to adopt it. It's not going to happen. I know her too well. But what is the car ride like home if you've beaten her on the golf course? Is it very quiet?
You know what's interesting? It is extremely quiet. Extremely quiet. And I'm not even allowed to make fun of it because, you'd assume what will happen afterwards. Then it becomes something else. And then you turn it around.
And if she's won,
you're
not hearing the end of it.
Oh, my goodness. Then it's, no, who's your daddy? And this, and rubbing it in. And then I quickly remind her, but listen, you need to stay humble in your win, because when I beat you, I don't rub it in your face as like you do. And, but it's, like I said, she's very competitive, and she probably feels she started later, and now she's always like, when she started off, she was losing, and she hated it. And even though I never gloated or made her feel bad, but she's just happy that she's achieved, being competitive and even actually winning the game. So over time she'll probably stop, but
no, she won't. But she is part of this wonderful team of Ndungane. You've got a very close friendship as well as marriage, and I've seen that on a number of occasions. And I think that's been a big part of you managing something that not all of your peers have managed, which is transitioning through rugby into life thereafter, into a happy place that's not in the constant spotlight that rugby places you in, but that still offers you some kind of self-actualization and gives you a sense of purpose. Family is part of it, but there's also the work part, because there's Odwa the builder.
Yeah, and you know what, Dan, I think one of the biggest things for me is my faith in God. And like you mentioned, when you come from being a sportsman, you get spoiled quite a lot, and you get used to it's a different lifestyle from a normal 24, 5-year-old has. Completely different. And I think if you get consumed by what you have, it becomes very difficult to adjust when you don't get the attention that you used to get anymore. And, where it almost become the rugby player becomes you. And that's where I think the challenge comes, because now how do you separate? Or rather, how do you continue when you're no longer this thing that you thought was everything? And I think that for me has been the most, that was what has helped me transition a bit easier, because I know no matter what and no matter where I am in life, I'm still a child of God, and God still provides for me, and He's given me a beautiful family, beautiful wife. And you talk about being the builder. One of the biggest things I wanted, even though I'm not a builder, my partner is a builder, I didn't want to play rugby and coach or be in management, because I wanted to be challenged by something completely different, because I understand and I know that there's more to life than just what we have. And I wanted that life. I wanted to see what it's like. So now I've had to step out onto that side and be like, I'm under 19 and 21 coming into a senior team again. And you need to prove yourself. And it was one of the reasons why, after a long time, because it's like when you come into a team environment that's established and you're a young guy, you know it's important to develop yourself, develop your skill. And when I now stepped on the other side, I knew that obviously you learn quite a lot from being in that environment, but I needed to develop myself as well. That's why I had to go back and study. And my wife was a big part in that. She told me that, studying is very important. And it was a challenging time for me, studying part-time, working full-time, having a family, to just find the time to adjust it all. And she needed to be there so that, she takes control of many things. And if I didn't have a supporting wife, it would have been very difficult to manage everything, because it's quite a lot to juggle. So my wife was there along the way, and she helped me through that. And I'm proud now to say I've got a BCom in business management after 4 years of
Congratulations.
of difficult times. And so I'm enjoying the place and the position I'm in. And there's many people that played a role, my family. And, I thank God every day for the opportunity that He's given me. And initially it was tough to adjust, but now I'm at a place where I'm quite comfortable where I am.
You look happy, and that's good to see. I will dispel that just one more time, though, before we do wrap up, because I've just got another message from Akona asking me if I have checked in on the silverware count. I want to take you back to the rugby days. And again, it's a question I love asking players, because often what we as fans think will be the answer is not the one you get when you phrase the question in the way that I will. And that's when you look back on the rugby career and the games that you played. There are the moments where a trophy is lifted or a major game is won, or you've made an important debut, or you've done something that looks to be really special. But from all of your rugby career, what was the game or the moment of the game or that rugby experience that you remember most fondly? The one that still gives you a few butterflies, a few goosebumps. You go back and think, you know what, that was really special.
Yeah, no, there were quite a few, and I think as you asking that question, there's one that will always come up front, and I think it's a game we played in 2007 at Kings Park. We played against the Crusaders. And you obviously understand what a difficult challenge that was. You know, beating the Crusaders is never easy because they've come here and they've given us a hiding. And that game was quite a big one. And one of the things we always spoke about when we play the New Zealand teams, especially the Crusaders, was you got to start well. Because it's so hard to come from behind and beat them because they are so organized and so well drilled, and they just make it tough for you. Now, that game, we had this special move that we had come up in the week with it and planned it to the T, and we knew the position where we were going to do it, and I promise you it works out that excuse me, we get the scrum right where we said we wanted to do it, and then everyone knew what the call was. And allow me to explain to you. So it was a scrum just off center where Ryan Kankowski at the time was 8th man. He was going to break to the right, and then on the inside here was AJ on the blind side, and AJ had to run straight to block their flank, and then Jacques Bottas will have to come from the side of the scrum and come into that gap, and then Ryan will give a back pass. We trained this move a few times in the week, and we knew that it was going to work like perfectly. Come game day, we get the scrum right there, and we call the move everyone knows. And then we play, Ryan breaks, AJ blocks, does his job properly, Jacques Bottas comes across. And then Jacques Bottas had the last man to beat. And then I was coming on the support line. Gave me the ball. And if you've been in Durban a few times in summer, and you know how humid it gets.
The ball becomes a bar of soap.
Extremely. And that day was one of the worst humid days you've been in Durban. The ball was so wet. So I caught it comfortably. But the thing that now, because the try line was still quite a few meters away, so my mistake was when I turned around to look where my wing was. So as I did this, the ball popped out.
Slipped out. Oh. In
Then
slow motion.
I can still see it. As I look, then I can feel the ball slipping out, and then the ball pops out, and then I'm trying to catch it, but it seems like it's just getting far and far away, and I can't go quick enough to get it. And then, all I had to do was catch and put it down. And then I lost it, and then we didn't score. So, man, oh man, now I still remember sitting down there with my hands in my head. I'm thinking, what on earth did you just do?
And the fans are normally quite good about that sort of thing.
Very much. And then anyway, so it goes on, and then we play, and then we are behind. We are losing. I think we are behind anyway. So there's almost time up. So now I'm trying desperate, because this happened in the first half earlier on, and I've been trying to make amends, trying, it's just not coming. And then sometimes things are just meant to be. It just works out like that, because we also kept exchanging. We had the ball in our own 22 trying to play out, and then Crusaders defend, and then we turn the ball over. And you would think at the time, because they are winning, so, and it's game up, they should just kick the ball out. but they don't. And they still try and play again. And then we turn the ball over again. And then we try play out. I'm on the right side, and then the play is going that way. And then I just follow, and then we break the line. And then I think it was AJ that passed to Adrian Jacobs. Adrian Jacobs goes, and then I'm coming for support, and then he gives it to me. And then I had the last man to beat. And then I thought to myself, I'm not going to go this way. I'm not going to give him a chance. I'm just going to pin my ears back and go for the corner. And then I ended up scoring in the corner.
Redemption.
But then we were 1 point behind. So now Ruan had to kick the conversion.
I remember this game.
On the touch line. So as much as I was happy, but I was not fully happy, because if he misses, we lose. It's not really satisfying, because, I mean, you don't want to lose at home. And then Ruan kicks it on the touchline, and I think even speaking about it now, it just gives you that. And then he converted that kick. So that was
those are the moments.
Special.
Those are the ones.
Yeah, no, for sure.
You're giving me goosebumps as well. I'm going to go to YouTube and watch the black and white footage of that game
enjoy.
from all those years ago.
Funny enough, speaking about that, my kids now make sure they remind me. They call it, because on YouTube it's called the Ndungane Oops. So my son keeps telling me, and he walks like, when we play, he goes around and he goes like this, Ndungane Oops. So my kids keep reminding me about it.
Yeah, my parents used to call me the Nicholl Oops, but I think that was a different reason. Odwa, it is always a delight spending time with you. Thank you. Many great memories. Not enough time together on the golf course, so we'll have to amend that. And then maybe if I practice really hard and get much better, I might be able to take on your wife as well. And
good luck with that. I don't know.
I don't think it's going to go my way.
No. Not, especially not with that walk. I saw that gangster walk. We might need to work on that one.
It's a pleasure having you on. Thank you so much. And we'll now have to downgrade and get the lesser twin, the lazy one, on when he can finally find some time to come and join us.
Yeah, eventually. You just gotta keep trying. Thank you so much, Dan. I really had so much fun with you, and great seeing you again, buddy.
A very special guest on the Dan Nicholl Show this week, one of the great wings of modern South African rugby, not just Akona's brother, not just Khomotso's husband, but Odwa Ndungane, rugby superstar, now a man with a degree, and most importantly, just a really cool guest with a really cool story. Odwa Ndungane.
You're listening to The Dan Nicholl Show.